G'day and welcome to the Inforunners and our new look intro. Anyway, I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by Algrid and Osiris Frost, and we're going to be doing a data dump, which we haven't done in 6 to 8 months. It's been a while. We couldn't get really enough to talk about a full episode today, so we did have lots of little tidbits we wanted to go over. I think I'll start out by saying we were really surprised with the feedback we've received on our previous episode.
The blind side, yeah.
I was expecting a lot of negativity, and Paul shared that with me earlier in the week as well. And I know Algrid, you're the same. And
yeah, we were all expecting this is going to get cane because it's so long and it's negative and all the reasons that analytics said it's not going to work, and the views were through the roof, the comments were through the roof, the likes were through the roof. The dislikes were normal, and so everything else was like, we were surprised. It was surprising.
Yeah, not very many white knights or anything like that, and I think the comments, even from people that what they would say negative against the video, I kind of can see where they're coming from. So as I said, it was a way more well received than I expected. So yeah, I'm just glad to see that everyone's kind of on the same page. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Cyrus, you watched it as well, didn't you? So you kind of mirror. I know your thoughts usually mirror our own. So
yeah, I did. I don't think I would have added anything to that episode had I been on it that wasn't discussed. I think it was really, you guys nailed the sentiment in the community, and I really hope that it is well received and that we see some impact from this.
Yeah, and we've also heard back the CIG themselves have seen it, so hopefully they take that on board.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is there's a particular roadmap delay it's a mouthful. Server to client actor network rework delay, and I guess this kind of was scheduled to fix a lot of the desyncs and basically optimization, so it kind of improves the game for us. And I think this is how many times you were saying you reckon this has been delayed now, Osiris? 3 or 4?
Oh boy, at least 3 or 4, probably 5 or 6. I mean, it's been on the roadmap for a long time, and it's one of those things that keeps getting pushed. And I don't really know the technical hurdles to it. I think it probably has something to do with iCache, and maybe that's why it's not in yet. But
that's go ahead.
I was just going to say, I could imagine any optimizations really have a kind of you can do so much, and then how much am I going to have to redo once iCache and the other systems come in? So it makes sense that any optimizations have been delayed by those big pillar type components, which we know they're still working on, and we know they're getting close, but surely it's going to impact.
Your sentiments from both of you mirror my own exactly. Algrid pretty much took the words straight out of my mouth. So,
well, they just had was it calling all devs where they talked about the remaining pillars, and while they didn't give any dates, it did seem like the progress is coming along in a lot of ways, and yeah, there's still work to do, but I do feel, despite like talking we have, I feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel almost at this point.
Can you repeat
They're closer to the end than they are at the beginning.
Sorry, can you repeat that, please? You actually roboted for me. Can you say that again, please?
Oh, I was saying that despite the frustrations that we all have, I feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're getting closer.
And that we'll talk about that in a little bit. There's a couple of things I wanted to add at the end, but I think the other thing I'll add while we're on the roadmap is there's a few people kind of surprised that we call like on the Discord and stuff like that were like, why is this kind of such a slim patch? And it's really obvious when 3.10 is a month and a half late. How do they make up that time? Chop chop chop. Like that. It was kind of like really not surprising to me. Is that kind of what you guys were expecting? Like just chopping of 3.11 to kind of get it back into the groove?
Yeah, I'm definitely not shocked. And, besides, this is the time of year when they're buckling down for fake digital CitizenCon. I'm sure they're still spending some time and efforts to give us some sort of presentation there. So it is what it is this time of year.
What's that?
It would have been very nice to see SC Fandom, wouldn't it? rather than DC fandom.
That's a good play on that DC fandom, SC fandom. That'd be a good mock-up thing. Like you know how they did the thing with the world tour thing from the guys from Amazon or whatever. The GT, what's it called? That show with the guy that reviews the ships at CitizenCon. Do you know what I'm talking about? The British guys.
Oh no, yeah,
the world tour guys.
The fake, the fake Top Gear guy.
So do a fake one of those, but instead of DC fandom, it's SC fandom. That'd be pretty funny. Anyway, just a whole
Jax McClary.
2020 meme.
Yep.
That'd be really
McClary.
Funny. Yeah. So I guess we'll go on a little bit and talk about some of the new ships for 3.11. Obviously, we'll get the big one out of the way, which is the Mercury Star-Runner. Are you guys liking, I guess I'll start there, like with what you've been seeing with the move from grey box to white box, and now we're seeing some of the final art coming through. Like from the original concept for me, like the fact that it can now fit vehicles in it, I think it really took it up a notch for me.
Well, I like the idea it can take vehicles. What frustrates the crap out of me, though, is when they first created when they first concepted it, they put the turrets at the back. And one of the comments, I think Nathan Dearsley, when he was talking about it, said, we moved the turret here to stop basically, being able to get all the vehicles in.
Mm.
And so they designed it almost with a view of, we don't want to tread on the toes of all these other ships and make them redundant. And it's as if they backflipped and said, who cares? Screw the old ships. Let's just make this one good. Which is a good thing for that ship, but it's a death knell for some of the older ships.
Yeah, I can see where it comes from. I still think the thing that a lot of people are missing is the lack of guns and stuff on this one. So
yeah,
we'll wait and see. Osiris, your thoughts?
I'm super excited for the ship. My only concern is that this ship is going to be so popular that this is the only thing you're going to be seeing around, or you're going to see a lot of Mercury Star Runners in the game.
I don't disagree, and I think with the changes to the constellation, I think it'll be up there with. Hey, what are you? Sorry, I just had a visitor. Hello. No, goodbye. Right. Yeah. So. Yeah, what was I? Totally threw me. Yeah, Mercury Star-Runner. Yeah, like it with the constellation and changes to that, I think it's definitely going to be one of the more popular ships in the verse. I think the Corsair may come up a bit, but I don't think it's going to get anywhere near as popular as this one.
I think the Corsair is going to be basically a Connie sized and have the same problems in flight that the Connie has.
Mm.
So if you hate the way the Connie flies, expect the Corsair to be just as woeful. It's got similar weapons, so it's going to have similar problems. Its turrets, while they're on the side, have the same problems that Connie turrets have, I think. And it doesn't have a vehicle, nor does it have the P-52 or the Snub Fighter. So it's less than a Connie, and yet it's got the same problems as the Connie as far as I can tell. So the Mercury Star-Runner is going to trump it again.
The real big thing for me with the Mercury Star-Runner is that it's the first medium-sized or medium-large profession ship in-game. Like there's no other ship at the moment that just it's cargo and jack of all trades in the medium category. So one that adds data running and all the other stuff.
You mean it's like what the Connie was originally? Being a medium-sized ship that got grown into the
No, I'm talking about that it's actually got a profession other than
cargo.
That's
sorry,
right.
You're thinking Mercury Star-Runner, not the Corsair. Sorry, my apologies for that.
My bad. Sorry.
Woeful error.
That's all good. Looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to them hopefully bringing more medium-sized profession mining, salvaging, all that stuff. So as we've been saying for a while, they'll be the ones to look out for.
Now, I don't know whether you'll agree with this, Osiris, but it's one of the things we've always said is that medium ships have a kind of that sweet spot, and so that's, I think, really at that point. So
100%, yeah.
It'll be the same with the professions when they come along. All right. This is probably more of a question for you two. Also, we've got the 100i series coming in. Now, I think it's just kind of super convenient that it's slipping in just before the anniversary sale to kind of help with new players.
LTI tokens.
Yeah, LTI tokens. And I don't know about that, but more for the new players to encourage new people into the game. Like the more starter ships there are, the more people that are gonna. That's because we're like not. I think 90%. I don't know what the percentage is, but maybe most people, 75 to 90% of people are just going to pick up a starter ship and not have anything else in this game. So just having another option for them to choose is a good thing, and obviously 3 more at once is a good one.
Can I just say, I don't know, am I the only one that was more excited about the hang glider and that concept art?
Yeah, I thought the same thing actually. Yeah, so yeah, no, you weren't the only one. 100%.
No, you weren't the only one
for that.
No. I think.
Well, that was actually the 100i in flight.
Yeah,
because it's such a useless little piece of.
I think they're all kind of like its whole selling point is that able to kind of regather hydrogen fuel thing. So it probably gives it a little bit more long range than the others, but I think versatility is probably still in the Mustang.
Long range.
Mustang.
Because hydrogen, it won't give it the long range though, because it's not doing quantum. It's only doing maneuvering thrusters. So
yeah, but that's my whole kind of point. Like, it's not what it's kind of gaining is in an area that it's already got that it doesn't need. So I refer something like the Aurora and the Mustang that have that combat and cargo versatility rather than what it's got. And if you want to get that kind of cargo versatility, you got to buy the cargo variant, but it costs more and
even the base versions, of the Aurora and the Mustang are cheaper. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So again, it's that luxury tax that I just
I
don't get.
I think,
but okay.
I think they should have just kept it as a 300 as the starter for the Origin ships and stuff. Trying to make the 100 series.
It's like when
100 series is a snub.
It's like when you buy.
It doesn't make sense at the pledge price. But this is, I guess, for somebody who joins the game someday without a package. After they buy it on a retail shelf, and they start crewing somebody's ship, and they save up money, and then they want to go buy a starter ship.
Yeah, because
this is not a terrible option compared to the other ones.
You'd assume when you start the game, it'll go, "What do you want to be your starter ship?" And there'll be like 5 options, and that'll be one of them. So realistically, while they cost more now, when the game probably goes live, they'll all be the same value. That's just my assumption.
But I
think that they would be doing the community a disservice if for like retail players who buy this game after launch, who never pledged for it back in the dark ages. Do you think they would be doing us a disservice by just handing them a ship as part of starting the game, or should they be crew people on somebody else's ship and save up the money?
Crowdfunding and future endeavors, and I've said this a few times in the last couple of weeks. It's the same thing with that whole buyer's remorse thing. Hammerhead, Reclaimer, Carrack, and you compare the prices in game out of game. It's a similar thing, just on a smaller scale. I think we'll find.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think we'll find a lot more ships that are going to have that disparity as time goes by.
I was just thinking if there wasn't that sense within older backers and even some of the midterm backers that the goalposts kept changing so much, so you don't know what you're doing. There probably wouldn't be so much frustration if they just said, "Look, you're starting off, here's a ship." But because there's so much frustration, and I imagine there might be more, if that makes sense. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come to light more and more as time goes by. And I think we're only seeing the first couple of examples of it. And we've been speculating about this for a really long time.
I'm just not that CIG's never made a misstep before, but I'm just saying, like, every single person who's involved in Star Citizen right now that has an Aurora or a Mustang or a 100i for that matter paid money for it.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes in later and buys a game off the shelf at GameStop and just gets a free starter ship, that's, I don't know.
Well, you kind of pay $45 for it and you get a ship, but you got to also realistically expect that at a retail store it'd be $60. So therefore, in a way, are we actually getting the Aurora and the Mustang for cheaper now? That's the other way to look at it. So
I would also say it, if you buy, they sold it, so you buy the shop, the thing off the shelf for say $49.50, right? And it says comes with a ship. I could see there being the option of, okay, with this, because you bought the $49 50 pack, you've got a choice of this ship or this ship, and then it's actually included in the cost. If you bought the $60 pack off a shelf, hey, it comes with a tier 2 starter ship, and you got a choice of this, or this.
Or one time pay $10 and upgrade it
Here's
to
the
the
compromise.
$100.
I just figured out the compromise. They should have a tutorial, and during the tutorial missions, you make enough money to buy an Aurora MR or a Mustang Alpha.
And that's a time sink.
Yeah, could be a thing.
If you want to skip it, you can skip it and go do whatever you want to do. But
don't get the Aurora Mustang. And I'm just going to adjust this mic because it's snuck into the screen.
Yeah. All right. Everything that's gone wrong today has gone wrong. That's great.
That's right. Anything that can go wrong has gone wrong.
All right. So the last thing I want to talk about is the signs of Squadron 42 has moved into a crunch period. And I first kind of noticed this way back in March. In the 13th of March was an episode of Calling All Degs from around about the 36-minute mark. They're talking with Nathan Deasley, and he actually shows off, he's doing some final art passes on one of the space stations there. So this is showing the levels are moving from final white box to final art, and that means they'll probably be going through the whole game and polishing it up to that standard. So that's the crunch period you're hitting. And so that's why we're also seeing things like less ship sales this year, and stuff like that. So I think this is all positive signs, like kind of as Cyrus alluded earlier, that the light at the end of the tunnel is now within sight. And so while this year sucks balls, it probably means that I'm realistically expecting, hopefully, fingers crossed, CitizenCon next year is probably the release of Squadron 42.
Now, question for you, Execute. I'm asking you to put your developer's cap on. This final stage of this stage of going through and doing all the polish, which is soon to see, is that'd be something you'd expect to be seeing right at the end, isn't it? It's not something you do.
Well, yeah,
in early alpha, it's
because if something needs to be changed when you're trying to change really polished art, it's an expensive proposition. It's kind of like say you're making a prototype car, or like actually doing body work on a car. It's a lot more work than if you just have to work with it when it's back in its clay form, because you can just change it and remold it, and okay, you've got to go back and do all the molds and all that stuff. So if you're into a car, I'm not a car person, so that's probably a bad analogy, but the point is you've got to remodel it, you've got to re-unwrap it, you've got to retexture it, you've got to reanimate it, you got to you got to relight it. All those things have to be redone. So yeah, it is a very much towards the end, but you also got to think of that has to be done across the entire game in level terms and stuff like that. So it is something you tend to do towards the end.
And because it's such a big workload, again, you do it at the end rather than piecemeal as you're going along.
Yes, it's also why there's all hands on deck. So that's why you're probably seeing less ship sales, because those ships people are now working on, they might not be working on a level because they're not a level people, but think of all the props and art. Props is a really big thing. That could be a massive set piece, like a space station. It could be a fork. Like it's quite a large amount. Like think of all the art pieces you've ever seen in video games, crates, all that type of things.
Mops and buckets.
All that, yeah. All those type of things. Even in some cases, real simple things as usually in this game it would be done by a graphic artist, but in some other games you might just have a puddle to go with that mop and bucket, and that would be just a 2D texture on the floor. In this game, it's probably an effects artist job. But the point is, those effects artists are also on the crunch as well. So they're going through and they're working out where they've got to put the effects. The lighting crew's doing that stuff. So, after the artists have come in and done the props and laid it out and all that stuff, there's a couple other passes to come behind them as well. So all hands on deck. And I think that's why there's been less ship sales this year. So they're the things that
do you guys reckon that there's going to be any sort of announcement, like probably a beta announcement at Fake Squadron at Fake CitizenCon this year?
Tough call, because kind of last we heard is it's the beta was meant to be at the end of this month, or internal beta, I should say. And we've heard that it's possibly been pushed back at minimum to quarters, so that makes a 6-month delay, which puts it to where they were hoping to potentially, at the earliest, release the game, which then puts that back 2 quarters, which puts that at Squadron 40 CitizenCon next year. So at the earliest,
they're probably looking at a holiday 2021 release at this point.
Yeah. So I with that expectation, that's why my release of Squadron 42 date has literally dropped to CitizenCon next year, because it just makes so much sense.
We look at, I don't know about how things are for you, Cyrus, but for us in Australia, we're still copying COVID type things, but we certainly seem to be over the hump in many ways. Things are while we might be, the states might be saying, no, you can't come in. Things in the states seem to be relatively returning to normal for most places. Victoria, exception to
like
at the moment.
Everything else in the states, it's becoming overly politicized.
Yeah, it's same here. I had my birthday the other day, and I went to the cinemas to see Tenet, and that's the most COVID thing I've seen. And where I live, I'm on an island, so we've been kind of sheltered from it all. But because this cinema is like an Australia-wide chain, they have obviously procedures they have to follow, and they were putting us 2 seat, so you couldn't sit in every second row, and you had to sit at least 3 seats apart. So it was basically 2 people on one side of the aisle and 2 people on the other side of the aisle. It was really overkill. For the fact that on my island we haven't had a single case in 3 months. So not saying that it won't happen eventually or something like that, but it's just there's just no signs of it, and yeah, I don't know. So I guess it's just a part of the course here until life returns to normal.
But I can see that while we're seeing things pretty much more normal, places like the States or Europe are still having significant impacts, still having significant impacts there, and still having significant impacts upon workflow and other things. So
the question you're really asking him is, are they over the hump? Are you guys over the hump there? And
I don't know. I keep reading that there's still a lot of new cases every day. I don't pay too much attention though. Yeah. It's I kind of have other stuff going on.
I think that makes that kind of relevant though, is it's not just us that is affected. It's also bringing it back to Star Citizen CIG that's affected and stuff like that. So yeah.
So I suppose if COVID's still having that major impact, and it's still and things are still on the increase, then those delays we're seeing are going to be quicker. And are going to be more impacted.
And does it draw out the development time? That's the thing. Right. So as I said, if it's been pushed back, 1 or 2 quarters, cool. But does that mean
so far?
Then also remember that once upon a time there was this talk of a red carpet star-studded event when they were gonna have a Hollywood premiere sort of thing.
They are still planning that.
Yeah, they probably still want to do that. Is what I was gonna say. So
that lines up with LA at CitizenCon next year. Yeah, exactly. It's perfect timing. You kind of want it to be in LA because of that, and if they turn around and say, "Oh, it's not going to be at LA this year," then that's a telltale sign that it's delayed probably another 12 months.
Yeah, and I think LA makes perfect sense because it's the chance of getting as many of the stars as possible to roll in and be there as well. Because
all right then, I think with that, we'll
moving on.
Wrap it up. No, well, unless you got anything else you want to talk about, I was going to wrap it up. Nothing. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. If you like this type of content, please leave a like. If you didn't like this episode, please let us know that as well. Let us know your comments on anything that we've talked about today. I guess, for example, the one I would ask comments for specifically would be the signs of the crunch. Have you guys seen that as well? Are you unhappy with the delays? I think it's just this. I think everyone's over 2020. Let's be honest. Let's get on to 2021 because kind of forget this. It's going to be. I was talking to Minion Soldier the other day, and one of the things we mentioned is 2020 is going to be one of those years. When you look back at history, and there's a few years that are very significant, like the end of the World Wars and stuff like that, and September 11 and stuff like that. Those key moments in history. This is going to be one of those years where the entire year is just a key moment in history because there's been nothing else like it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Don't forget to subscribe, vote. Please
ring the bell.
Ring the bell. Like us on Patreon, all that type of stuff. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Take care. God bless.